Heat protection for workers, a matter of life and death. OSHA's proposed standard explained. OSHA heat rules. Will Arizona workers get the protection they need? How a $1 million lab is fighting deadly heat for outdoor workers. UConn research. Workers dying in extreme heat as OSHA debates safety rules. Heat protection for workers, a matter of life and death. OSHA's proposed standard explained. Imagine this: you're working outdoors in Florida, where the temperature can easily exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. You're planting, weeding, spraying, pruning, and lifting plants all day. Now, picture this: there are no regulations to shield you from the scorching heat. No mandatory shade, no guaranteed water or breaks. This is the harsh reality for many workers in Florida's plant nurseries, including myself. But here's where it gets controversial. While some employers are taking steps to protect their workers, many are not. And this is the part most people miss. The federal government is now considering a national heat standard for workers, which could be a game changer. Let's dive into the details and explore why this is so crucial. Have you ever bought a houseplant from a big box store or garden center? Chances are, it passed through the hands of someone working in a Florida nursery. These workers often toil in sweltering heat, with no ventilation, and sometimes work 12-hour shifts during peak season. The heat is not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Workers face dehydration, headaches, dizziness, nausea, and muscle cramps, all of which make their jobs even harder and riskier. Without access to clean water or breaks to cool down, their bodies can overheat, leading to serious health issues or even death. Over time, prolonged exposure to extreme heat can cause kidney damage and dangerous changes to blood pressure. Heat is now the deadliest weather-related hazard in the United States, killing more people than hurricanes, floods, or wildfires. Yet, for too long, those most exposed to extreme heat have been left unprotected. Doctors, scientists, and public health experts all agree, heat kills. In places like Miami-Dade County, rising temperatures are driving more emergency room visits, hospitalizations, and preventable deaths every year. While some employers are taking steps to protect their workers, many do not. I know nursery workers who are denied breaks and clean drinking water. I know people who have fainted on the job and then been threatened with losing their jobs for speaking up. I know workers who ended up in the hospital after nearly fatal heat strokes. One South Florida nursery was even named by the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health as one of the most dangerous employers in the country. That's why I joined the Calor campaign to fight for enforceable heat protections. In 2023, we came close to passing the first local heat standard in the US, right here in South Florida. But our state government sided with industry lobbyists to block it. Last year, Florida lawmakers passed HB 433, which made it illegal for local governments to create their own heat safety rules. Texas passed a similar law. And today, for the millions of workers in the South, there are still no enforceable heat protections at the local, state, or federal level. That's why the Occupational Safety and Health Administration's, OSHA, proposed national heat standard is so critical. For millions of workers across the country, this is a historic opportunity for our government to provide the basic protections we all need: water, shade, and breaks. So, it's time for OSHA to act. It's time for employers, corporations, and industry associations to become part of the solution and help us stay safe and alive. From the plant nurseries of Florida to fields, rooftops, and loading docks across the country, no one should have to risk their life just to earn a paycheck. Every worker deserves water, shade, and a break. But what do you think? Should the federal government implement a national heat standard? Do you agree that employers should be held accountable for providing basic protections? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation and make a difference together. OSHA heat rules. Will Arizona workers get the protection they need? Workers are literally baking alive and America's safety system is failing them. As Arizona faces another record-breaking summer with temperatures exceeding 110 degrees Fahrenheit, millions of workers discover shocking gaps in legal protections against lethal heat. While climate change accelerates, workplace safety regulations remain frozen in time, but the real scandal lies in what's happening behind closed doors in Washington. For the 53rd consecutive year, the United States still lacks federal heat protection standards despite clear warnings dating back to 1972. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, finally proposed heat safety rules in 2023 requiring water breaks and cooling measures at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but here's where it gets controversial. These life-saving measures now face indefinite delays due to political maneuvering. Under a little-known Trump-era policy requiring agencies to eliminate 2 existing regulations for every new one, heat safety progress has been trapped in bureaucratic limbo. Our trucks become microwave ovens on wheels, reveals Phoenix mail carrier Eric Gregorovich, describing 140 degrees Fahrenheit delivery vehicles so dangerous that walking 114 degrees Fahrenheit streets feel safer. 3 postal colleagues required hospitalization just last week. The grim reality check as Arizona endures 113 consecutive days above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But this isn't just an outdoor crisis. Harvard researchers shockingly found 40% of indoor workers face hazardous 80-degree F+ conditions in kitchens, warehouses, and factories, environments most people assume are climate-controlled. The regulatory vacuum becomes even more alarming when examining state-level failures. While progressive states like California and Minnesota implement heat rules, Arizona's legislature has repeatedly killed protection bills, even basic hydration requirements. We are decades behind, fumes Iron Workers Union leader Jason Sangster, whose members suffer permanent health damage from heat strokes. Here's what most taxpayers don't realize: OSHA isn't completely powerless. Through creative use of its general duty clause, the agency issued 1,392 heat hazard warnings since 2022, but without specific regulations, these lack teeth. When a Dallas postal worker died in 90 degrees Fahrenheit heat last month, OSHA couldn't directly penalize employers because no heat standard exists. Controversy alert: should corporations face criminal charges for heat-related deaths? As states like Texas and Florida actually ban local heat protections, workers' rights advocates clash with business groups claiming regulations would strangle small businesses. Where's the line between economic freedom and worker safety? Glimmers of hope emerge through local action. Phoenix now mandates employer heat safety plans with shady breaks and water access policies so sensible that even construction giants support them. Governor Katie Hobbs' new task force aims to create Arizona-specific guidelines by 2025, though critics argue this is too little, too late. Final shock: the very experts needed to solve this crisis were laid off under recent budget cuts. Elon Musk's controversial NEHO's purge eliminated America's entire team of federal heat specialists. As climate scientists predict worsening extremes, who will protect the warehouse worker in Mesa collapsing at 118 degrees Fahrenheit? The delivery driver sweating through third-degree burns. The farmhand choosing between dehydration and unemployment. This isn't just about Arizona, it's about what kind of nation we want to become. Should surviving your shift be considered an occupational hazard? We want to hear from you. Are current suggestions for water breaks sufficient, or does America need enforceable heat safety laws? Share your thoughts below. Your voice could help rewrite the rules before next summer's death toll rises. How a $1 million lab is fighting deadly heat for outdoor workers. UConn research. As temperatures continue to rise, the safety of outdoor labors is increasingly jeopardized. The Korey Stringer Institute at the University of Connecticut is taking significant steps to address this pressing issue by establishing a new laboratory dedicated to preventing heat-related illnesses with an investment of $1 million. This initiative comes in response to the escalating dangers posed by climate change, which has made working conditions for outdoor employees more perilous each year. This innovative lab will enable researchers to simulate various environmental factors such as heat, humidity, sunlight, and altitude, conditions that outdoor workers frequently encounter. Dr. Robert Huggins, who serves as the president of Occupational Safety and Athlete Performance at the Korey Stringer Institute, emphasizes the importance of this research in safeguarding labors. The institute, located on the UConn campus in Storrs, is named in memory of Korey Stringer, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings who tragically succumbed to heat stroke during a training camp in 2001. Since its inception in 2010, the institute has expanded its focus from athletes to include various occupations, such as military personnel and laborists, reflecting a broader commitment to understanding the effects of heat on different populations. The establishment of this lab follows a pivotal study conducted in 2024, where researchers from the Korey Stringer Institute found that providing workers with access to heat mitigation strategies significantly enhances their health and productivity in simulated high-heat environments. This finding has prompted numerous companies in sectors like construction, agriculture, and manufacturing, where employees are often exposed to extreme heat, to seek guidance from the Institute on how to ensure worker safety and boost productivity. Dr. Huggins notes, "We have a solid understanding of heat-related illnesses in the military and among athletes, with numerous protective measures already in place, including environmental monitoring, hydration strategies, acclimatization, and cooling techniques." However, there is a notable lack of research focused on occupational workers, which is why many companies have reached out to us with concerns about heat safety. Heat-related illnesses can be life-threatening if not identified and treated promptly. Symptoms often begin with muscle cramps or spasms, potentially escalating to heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Vulnerable populations include young children, pregnant women, the elderly, and individuals with chronic health conditions, as well as those with mobility challenges or who live alone. "I am particularly worried about workers in New England due to the significant temperature fluctuations we experience," Dr. Huggins expressed. "In the days leading up to Sunday, we had not encountered any extreme heat, but suddenly, temperatures soared, exposing outdoor workers to conditions they were not acclimatized to. This abrupt change dramatically heightens the risk of heat-related illnesses." Dr. Huggins also pointed out that Connecticut's climate is shifting, with average temperatures on the rise. For instance, the average temperature for 2024 is projected to exceed the historical average of around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Last year alone, there were 23 days where temperatures surpassed 90 degrees Fahrenheit, marking a 52% increase in high-temperature days compared to averages from 1960 to the present. Symptoms of heat exhaustion can manifest as heavy sweating, fatigue, a weak pulse, and cool, pale, or clammy skin, along with headaches, dizziness, nausea, and fainting. Anyone exhibiting these symptoms should be promptly moved to an air-conditioned environment and given small sips of water. As temperatures rise, people are becoming less resilient and less adapted to heat, which could lead to disastrous outcomes, Dr. Huggins warned. This is especially true for individuals with comorbidities such as cardiovascular issues, diabetes, thyroid disorders, or those who are wheelchair-bound, as well as the elderly and children, who are at the highest risk for heat-related illnesses. Funding for the new lab has been provided by UConn's Office of Vice President for Research, which oversees all research activities across UConn campuses, including UConn Health. This office is responsible for managing research support, core facilities, grant proposals, award management, compliance, and technology commercialization. Additionally, the Institute receives federal grants and has collaborated with the National Institutes of Health and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. "We already have one lab, but we were turning away companies and grant opportunities due to a lack of space for another lab," Dr. Huggins explained. UConn recognized the urgent need for this research, and we are grateful for their investment, as well as the support from our corporate partners like Mission Cooling Gear and Majid, the latter of which will have naming rights to the new lab. Future research will focus on evaluating the effectiveness of various cooling towels and gear on workers' physiological responses, including heart rate, core temperature, fatigue, and stamina. Additionally, researchers plan to monitor workers in real time in the field, sending data back to the lab to inform best practices for maintaining safety and productivity in high heat conditions. This research is particularly timely, as the Biden administration proposed new OSHA regulations last year aimed at protecting workers from heat-related illnesses. If finalized, these regulations would apply to both indoor and outdoor work environments, mandating that employers provide water, rest breaks, and acclimatization periods when temperatures reach certain levels. Furthermore, the rules would require training for employees on heat stress hazards and the implementation of a written heat injury and illness prevention plan. However, the Trump administration indicated that these proposals might be abandoned, leaving heat-related protections for workers to be determined by individual states, some of which have stricter regulations than others. These standards were anticipated last fall, prior to the current administration, Dr. Huggins noted. Now, many states have adopted their own heat safety laws for workers to mitigate heat stress. Unfortunately, we have seen a decline in research grants related to heat studies, forcing us to rely more on corporate funding for our research. The driving force behind all of this is the rising rates of heat-related deaths and illnesses, coupled with companies' desire to protect their workforce. Dr. Huggins announced that the new lab will hold a groundbreaking and dedication ceremony in the fall. For further inquiries, Stephen Underwood can be contacted at sunderwood@current.com. Workers dying in extreme heat as OSHA debates safety rules. 3 lives were lost as federal regulators debated life-saving measures for workers facing extreme heat, a stark reminder of the urgent need for action. But here's where it gets controversial. Even as temperatures soared to deadly levels, industry leaders argued that heat protections are unnecessary for workers accustomed to sweltering conditions. This clash highlights a critical question: should safety rules adapt to regional climates, or does every worker deserve the same basic safeguards? The June heat dome, which blanketed much of the U.S., left at least 3 workers dead and hospitals overwhelmed with heat-related emergencies. At the same time, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, was locked in a weeks-long debate over its first-ever heat protection rule, designed to force employers to provide rest breaks and water when temperatures exceed 90 degrees. But industry groups, including the Associated General Contractors of America, pushed back, claiming that workers in the South are used to higher heat and don't need such rules. An 85 to 90 degree day here is a vacation compared to their 104-degree summer, one representative argued, sparking immediate backlash from health advocates. The debate isn't just about numbers, it's about real people. In Georgia, a construction worker died after hours of labor under a scorching sun, while a baseball umpire in South Carolina collapsed during a youth game and later succumbed to heat stroke. Meanwhile, a U.S. Postal Service employee in Dallas collapsed while delivering mail at 94 degrees, leaving colleagues and families devastated. These tragedies underscore a grim reality: heat-related illnesses and deaths are preventable, yet they continue to rise. OSHA's proposed rule would require employers to offer 15 minutes of rest for every 2 hours of work above 90 degrees, along with access to water. But critics, including some industry leaders, say the rule is too rigid. They argue that workers in hotter regions have developed resilience and that mandates could harm businesses. However, former OSHA official Jordan Barab countered, "We don't need to look at the data. We can just pick up the paper." The message is clear: the human cost of inaction is too high. The tension escalated further when a union representative for USPS workers revealed that the agency has ignored its own heat safety policies, pushing employees to work despite symptoms like leg cramps and nausea. "These injuries and deaths are completely preventable," he said, citing 7 union members who have died since 2012. The proposed OSHA rule, he argued, would force employers to prioritize worker health by mandating breaks and acclimatization to heat. Yet the debate remains unresolved. As OSHA weighs whether to finalize, weaken, or abandon the rule, one thing is certain: the stakes are life and death. Will regulators prioritize science and worker safety, or will industry interests take precedence? The answer could shape the future of labor rights in an era of escalating climate crises. What do you think? Should heat protections be tailored to regional climates, or do all workers deserve the same level of care? Share your thoughts, your voice matters. Heat protection for workers, a matter of